Opposition to EU enlargement, particularly regarding Ukraine's accession, is regularly voiced in European countries. Russia exploited the sentiments to expand its destabilizing influence on European nations and interfere in the domestic politics of EU member states. As a result, support for Ukraine's European integration may become fragmented or disorganized. In this context, elections represent a particularly vulnerable time in the information space, marked by a rapid surge in news and media content related to socially and politically sensitive issues. On May 4th, 2025, the first round of the presidential election will be held in Romania. Earlier, the Constitutional Court annulled the results of the presidential election, citing intelligence report about violations during the campaign. The first round demonstrated the growing popularity of far-right politicians in Romania. Moreover, one of the key topics of Călin Georgescu's campaign, the winner of last year's annulled elections, was criticism of economic and military aid to Ukraine. Ultimately, Georgescu was not allowed to run in the elections. However, the issue of support for Ukraine in the war, as well as Romanian society's perception of Ukraine's European integration, remains open amid a heated election campaign accompanied by disinformation efforts. Therefore, we decided to discuss key topics relevant to Ukraine's European integration prospects with Romanian policy analyst Iulian Chifu. Mr. Chifu, what are the main anti-Ukrainian narratives in the rhetoric of presidential candidates and other influential politicians?
My personal opinion and my personal assessment, and it should be taken as such. But basically, Ukraine is not a subject. First, we are not yet in the elections. It's a pre-electoral period, but we had elections in December. Second, yes, there are some persons who are already positioned for the perspective, and there is, if not ambiguity, at least it's not a subject. It's not in the mainstream. It's not very much present. And it is happening with all the candidates because, once again, there are not it's not a purpose for the mainstream debate. Romanian elections are about Romania. For the other personalities, and I would also underline the main narratives are discussing, and it happens each and every time when something is happening, the situation of Romanian minority in Ukraine, specifically Romanian language used in church, situation of the churches, and Romanian language in high schools and closure of schools or high schools and things like that. Every time when such an event occurs, for sure, it is taken on the other side, and there are a number of vectors who are looking at it and sometimes trying to use it, but it is, once again, still marginal. Yes, we have now a candidate who is under a ban in Ukraine and Republic of Moldova, the president of our, George Simeon, and his stakes, at least in that particular issue, is somehow more unionist, more integrationist and critical, but it's not a theme, once again, in its support. If he got a question, if something happens, he would multiply, but it's not in the campaign because it's not the subject. The second narrative that is discussed is support for Ukraine in the war and war happening in Ukraine and things like that, where actually, once again, the nationalist extremist right party in Romania and George Simon, its president, has moved towards the center by growing, the support, and also by entering the group of the European conservatives, that of Giorgia Meloni. They were obliged to sign an agreement to support Ukraine, and they have this formal agreement for entering this group. So actually, the support for Ukraine is not an issue. Generally, Ukraine is not an issue, but the support for Ukraine is not an issue that is reported in the electoral campaign due to that conditionality. So actually, our and Georgia Simon doesn't want to go that way and to underline that they are supportive of Ukraine due to a part of their electorate, which is coming from the former candidate, which was excluded, the pro-Russian candidate. And therefore, it is more of an ambiguity than of critique or support for such an idea. For European Union integration of Ukraine, there is no question mark. It is not a subject, even in the other milieus who are discussing it. So actually, the three main issues to be discussed are marginal on one hand, and the only one who could have a kind of traction is the one related to the situation of the Romanian minority in Ukraine.
In your opinion, what are the main platforms for spreading anti-Ukrainian messages in Romania? Are such messages present in the Romanian segment of TikTok?
We have one very important platform in Romania, which is Facebook. It's something 80% something percent of Romania who have an account and are visiting that. It's LinkedIn, which is far more professional, but a number of trolls and a number of fights do happen also there. And for the rest, yes, TikTok with some 8.5 million of users, who is the most prominent. But in TikTok, due to the intervention of the Romanian state, first the pro-Russian information space dropped dramatically. It is also true that we are not in an electoral campaign, and maybe there's not enough money to deal with this. And once again, it's marginal in the debate, in the public debate. Ukraine and everything linked to is Ukraine. But on another point, it's also a raise of the pro-European accounts and speech, which actually now in Romania are somehow half on TikTok. They've recovered and take a balanced approach on TikTok. So actually it's somewhere in the middle, but as you know, the way of functioning of those networks, it depends on what group you are situating. If you are interested in what comes from that part, it's also a matter of the money that is going to be invested and of the amplification of those types of messages, or artificial as it happens in the previous annulled elections. So Telegram, which is another network to do that, is quite marginal in Romania. Few Romanian citizens coming from Republic of Moldova, few people are using it, so it's marginal in the equation of dealing with this. So I wouldn't say that well, because it's marginal. Also, there's no so much content in Romanian related to Ukraine or challenging Ukraine. So I will say, all in all, it's at large respect, it's balanced. It's rather pro-European, if not pro-Ukrainian. But in any case, Ukraine is not in the forefront or in the of what is debated. It is a lot debated about U.S., Trump, negotiations with Russia, Russia's aspiration to get half of Europe, security of Europe, defense. This is actually the mainstream debating those issues, and the three related to Ukraine are existing. The first one is maybe more visible, the rest is somehow marginal and in any case balanced, if not pro-Ukrainian. In any case, the percentage of the population, and I'm moving to polls that are supportive for EU, NATO, increased dramatically in Romania after the last elections, and I can tell you that it has already been very up, but now we are talking 75, 80, 85% in the case of NATO, which is enormous. It's very high. And at the same time, the pro-Ukrainians is majority, hard majority, they're the pro-Ukrainian. So even though in some cases, in some milieux, some social media networks, things seems balanced or at some point amplified due to the money invested, actually they don't have a public where to reach and change dramatically in what is related to Ukraine, except maybe the subject of Romanian minority in Ukraine.
What are the reasons behind the popularity of right-wing populists in Romania, especially Călin Georgescu?
Călin Georgescu is out of the picture. He himself knows very well that he's out. He still somehow fight to still be there, like, celebration of his birthday on the street, a kind of riot. But all the riots that they organize are dropping dramatically since January, and after the ejection of Călin Georgescu, the rejection of the Constitutional Court, things are moving in the right way. So actually, he's marginal. You were asking about a wave of right wing. Actually, it's a combination. It's a combination that comes from a number of EU policies that have pushed to the extreme, for instance, the prices of energy. When we are a country producing energy, but including those, the Green Deal, it amplifies. Actually, we are at 3, maybe 5 times the price of energy in the US. And we are once again producers of oil, gas, and electric energy. That's that types of extreme policies that are harming the people because of the prices is one of the explanation of challenging the pro-European mainstream parties. The second one, okay, amplified propaganda, Russia, whatever, for sure, it doesn't come from nowhere. Second problem is, and I will say the most important, is the way that Romania has negotiated and advanced its own policies. There is a kind of rejection of the political class as a whole and push as much as possible. And also via propaganda, via fake news, via distortion of truth, but also a question mark related to the low possibility of the mainstream parties to present number of presidential candidates that really would be acceptable for the majority of the public and would support them for the presidential office. So because of this mix, it's also a big question mark. And the third one for sure is related to Russia's direct involvement and subversion policies, specifically in the informational space with informational warfare and all the means that they might involve, including, and it has been proved lately, buying votes in some milieus, trying to get to number of voters that never voted or first voters, independent of their age, who they get on vote to vote specifically for that type of populists because of the low level of preparation and even level of literacy in this part. Actually, the main problem is that there is this part of people who consider that social media is information, which is not actually. Social media, as you rightfully know and everybody knows, it's a business. It is supposed to sell products, ads. So the whole discussion about this communication network is about selling, and it's not about information. Well, a part of the population with low level of their own preparation and their own literacy, the level of literacy and knowledge about this, consider that is information, and that is it's more important what my friend on social media is telling me than what an official communique from an institution is saying. So this is a side effect also of some educational representation and shortcomings and so on and so forth. So actually, it is also in the hands of Romanians authorities, and we can't deny it. So basically, we have those three levels: EU policies, that are pushed in the extreme, considered extreme progressist and so on, and rejected by a large number of the population, because of the costs coming with them. The government and their way of dealing with number of policies and lack of capacity of putting in front knowledgeable and well trained people. And the third one, for sure, Russian impact and investment and uncover of number of concerts that were sitting hidden somewhere in the Romanian public. They have emerged and do the job for the president elections. But what we know now is, for the moment, that Romanians learned the lessons and Romanian institutions learned the lesson, and EU is very helpful in the debates related to those platforms, and obliging them to obey by the rules of our electoral committees, to put down political ads that are hidden, and to expose the money spent without being reported. We have a system that obliges each candidate to report on the costs, to report where they put the money, who gave the money, and so on and so forth, with limitation of contributions and so on. So actually, that actually did the biggest part of the arguments for canceling the previous elections, when a candidate moved from 1 to 23% practically overnight in 10 days, and when huge amounts of money have been injected in social media, especially TikTok, but not only, without any report, without any provenience, without sources, part of them coming from cryptocurrencies, some other part coming from a number of donation. And we still have on our plate 4 or 5 trials. In some cases, number of people that have been arrested. In some cases, they are already on trial, sent in front of the courts. So actually, it's a process going on. But as you know, in democracy, justice is taking care of the right of defense, and it takes some time until you have a final decision of courts that would imply canceling all of this. So that would be the full framework related to this.
Do the majority of Romanians trust the data released by Romanian authorities regarding foreign interference in the elections, particularly through disinformation?
It's not about the majority. It's about the fact that we do have a number, and an important number, of people who are still believing, marginalized meanwhile. When violent networks were exposed, when money and relations with Russia were exposed, a big part of the support that has been given to that guy has moved away dramatically, because normal people, decent people, even though they wanted to go away from the mainstream, and to somehow sanction mainstream politicians, they moved away from this guy, because when violence was exposed, when assault weapons were exposed, when our own Wagner, if you want, has been exposed, when arrest did occur with all those people and the money and everything else, that was a moment where actually Georgescu lost dramatically, and it would have lost the elections if ever he would have run. Now we are moving in a different position with candidates that are representing parties, even those in the conservatory European one, which is already a step back from the extreme, if you want, They cover right and radical right, but till the extreme. So they are still in the framework of the Romanian, of the constitutional space, of the legal space. When they are in such a situation, even though they would like to change, I don't know, the constitution or rules or anything else, it's legal. They can have it. It's a matter of freedom of expression. The extreme has been somehow pushed away and diminished dramatically. So actually, the ones that would like to do that by violence, by breaching the law, by ruling directly with the people and so on, they already are marginalized, if not completely exit. We will see. We will see the polls and we will see the election going on. It's 11 candidates. There are at least two of them claiming this populist right extreme, right radical right extreme right path. But at the same time, we have one candidate which is doing the mainstream, and we have two main candidates doing the progressist, liberal progressist approach. So the electorate is split somehow in three, which are not equal parts. And it's interesting to see the elections, but they are far calmer and far more predictable, I would say, that it previously happened in December.
What powers does the president of Romania have in shaping foreign policy? And can they unilaterally influence Romanian-Ukrainian relations?
Actually, the president is our representative in the European Council. And as you know, European Council can't take decisions in enlargement, in foreign policy, defense, security, opening chapters of negotiations and things like that, if they don't have uh, um, um, unanimous, if not consensual vote. So each one of the representative can block at any point that type of decisions. In the economics field, in the other fields, you can do that by the double majority. So that's on one side. On the other side, yes, it's important. It's the representative of the country. He signs the mandates in foreign policy. He is the executive responsible for foreign policy, security, and defense. But he should work with the government. On another point, the majority can block or can suspend or can depose the president. So actually, there is a number of instruments at the disposal of the majority, which is two-thirds for European, dealing with that possibility to put things in order. So there is a possibility, I mean, theoretical possibility that the president, except for his oath, can't see the inside of the presidential palace like never. If you suspend him one after the others, for sure, we are not going to play around. And by the way, possibility of having such a president who breaches the law and the rules is marginal. So it's going to be anytime relationship between the president and the government and the majority who it's somehow mutual control, and in any case the president is the one that would respect the things of the majority. But don't forget, he is the one appointing generals. He is the okay, proposed by the government. He is the one proposing chief of intelligence services. He is the one appointing ambassadors, for sure, that are proposed by the MFA, under signed by the prime minister, coming back uh, heard by the parliament. So it is a complex system with a good balance of powers. So my point is that the president can't do anything what he wishes against the majority, the parliament, the government. They have very limited capacity and they can be sanctioned if they don't respect this majority will.
What advice would you give to Ukraine regarding communication with Romanian civil society and media in order to minimize the impact and spread of anti Ukrainian narratives?
Yeah, it's very important. It's very important to communication. It's very important communication with our officials. It's very important that each step that is related to Romanian minority would be very much oversee, explain, consult in advance with the Romanian party in order to avoid those things, specifically in electoral campaign, but even afterwards, in order to avoid misunderstanding if there's the case of a technical, I don't know, decision, and to avoid such decisions because actually the bilateral relationship has been improved dramatically since the beginning of the war, actually since the annexation of Crimea. But meanwhile, I believe that Ukraine really realized that Romania is a friend, is a supporter, and they have obtained everything that could be done in order to support them. For the other things, yes, there are a number of you know um, wrongdoings or excesses in relation with agriculture products, for instance. It's not about transiting; it's more of injecting products in Romania. As you know, Romania is a very important producer itself of agricultural products, and the difference is for sure on the price because Romania has to observe the EU rules related to the quality of everything that is produced in that part. So I think that as much as Ukraine is embracing EU rules related to agriculture in their negotiations, as much as they are having this dialogue with Bucharest that they have, and who establishes ways of avoiding to this type of over capacity production and injection of agricultural products in Romania itself. I think that those are positive steps. With the rest, it's very important that the connections at the think tank level, at the media level, people to people are evolving and are developing bilaterally, and it happens at large respect. This would be also very much important, as it is important for the other states who are neighboring Ukraine or the important states that are supporting Ukraine with weapons and everything else. So it's very important to keep this in mind and to have this dialogue in order to be able to debunk at any moment any type of attempt to disinformation and to block in any way the good bilateral relations that we have in hand. Don't forget that small part which is related with some maybe voluntaristic decisions that are harming bilateral relations in any point. Consulting with Bucharest is the most important way before acting in everything that can be of interest for Romania, beginning for sure with the Romanian minority and the church and the way of developing their own, masses and in church where Romanian do attend.
The interview was compiled with the support of the European Union and the International Renaissance Foundation within the framework European Renaissance of Ukraine project. Its content is the exclusive responsibility of the authors and does not necessarily reflect the views of the European Union and the International Renaissance Foundation.